We bought this Burn Totaled Ferrari 430 at a steep discount, and after replacing all of its toasted electrical components, suspension, and just a handful of fuses, it was up and running like nothing ever happened. Well, except for that massive hole in the side, that was still there, but we also took care of that, and if you didn't happen to see the complete rebuild with an in-depth look at the entire restoration process complete with a thorough cost breakdown, go ahead, pause this one and hit the link below, because there's a lot of detail in that video that is very relevant to this one, like the part where the car, which obviously came to us as burn damaged, caught on fire a few more times while we were working on it.
Oh, something's on fire, something's on fire. Is something on fire in there? Oh.
The foam on the inside, yes.
Oh.
This is exactly why I kept telling Radarosa to grab the fire extinguisher and stay close.
Fire extinguisher, look, it's right there. All right, so we all know where it is. You know the way to work it? You pull the pin, push the button. Don't pull the pin yet.
I've had Ferraris before. I know how these work.
Good.
But even after the rebuild, it seems like the story of this car is just unfolding, as we got a hold of Tom, the car's previous owner, who was driving the Ferrari when it caught fire. He not only provided an entire detailed account of what happened leading up to and during the blaze, he also shipped over 8 boxes loaded with parts and pieces related to this car, which we'll check out in just a moment. Now, I've mentioned before that Ferrari had a fairly large run of cars that would catch on fire in the same exact spot that our car did, and it's not a coincidence. For a while, these mid-engine cars had faulty fuel pumps with a plastic top hat that would crack and seep fuel, and if left unrepaired, eventually the leak would get bad enough and things would catch fire. These faulty fuel pumps were eventually revised and the problem fixed. Or so I thought, because apparently the side that caught fire on our car had the revised fuel pump. According to Tom, this pump was replaced and the job was finished literally a few moments before it caught fire, which brings up quite a few questions, all of which I asked him. But before we go through all of this detail, we've got to go back in time over 4 years ago when I initially got the car and met my now very good friend Radarosa for the first time. Right after I got it, we figured it would make for an amazing collaboration project, so Scott flew over and we made really quick progress of things in just like 2 days. It was when we went to swap over the wiring, we noticed something was really off.
So the 430 has finally beaten me.
No, it has
not through my own fault.
It has not.
Yeah. We have a complete numpty here. What did you do, numpty?
I ordered wiring harnesses for a 430.
You hear that? Not harness, harnesses.
Wiring harnesses.
How many did you order wrong out of the 4?
Well, okay. I ordered 3 out of the 4 wrong, and the 4th one, good news on that, we don't really need it.
So 3 out of 3. It's not a bad strike rate, is it? Yeah.
This was a really dumb mistake. What had happened is I went to the Ferrari Parts catalog and found all the latest part numbers for a Ferrari F430 and ordered the wiring harnesses based off of those instead of matching the part numbers to my VIN. Now, wiring on all makes and models evolves over time as options change on cars, and let's just say all of the harnesses that showed up for my car were wrong. Each harness contained several different pigtails, and it was easy enough to source the right wiring, but by the time it all arrived, Scott had to go back home to England. Now, he made plans to come back in just a few months, and we bought return tickets for April of 2020. You guys remember what happened around that time, right? Let's just say that flight was delayed for a very long time. We were really set on fixing this together, and we could only hope that the travel restriction would be lifted quickly, but month after month of waiting, which turned into a year of not working on this car, made me feel entirely useless. And while my issues paled in comparison to what was going on in the world, it made me see how something like this could really affect one's mental state. What was really helpful to me was being able to video chat with Scott. We caught up on life, and we game planned the next steps for this Ferrari project.
In my opinion, there's no better help than to just open up to someone and let them know what's on your mind. And speaking of, BetterHelp is an affordable and accessible way to seek therapy, and also the sponsor of today's video. Now, whether you're experiencing some sort of anxiety or depression, maybe you're going through a tough time, or just want to motivate yourself a little bit more, therapy can be a great place to start. Getting started is very easy. All you have to do is head on over to betterhelp.com/samcrack, answer their questionnaire, and in as little as just a few days, you'll be connected with your therapist. And since it's all done online, you're no longer limited to just local choices. And on top of that, you could choose not just when, but also how you communicate with them. And since finding the right therapist is like picking the best daily driver, You can switch at any time for no extra cost or worries about insurance. And just like a new project requires a bit of attention and skill, so does your mental health. So head on over to the link down in the description box to get 10% off your first month of therapy over at BetterHelp, or just visit betterhelp.com/samcrack. Like I said earlier, 8 boxes of stuff that goes along with our Ferrari 430. When Tom, the previous owner, said, hey, I have some stuff I want to give you that went along with the car, I thought he was going to send me maybe the toolkit and owner's manual, let alone 8 boxes worth of stuff. Let's go ahead, let's start going through them and see exactly what we got. We'll kind of use our boxes here as a stand as we go through everything, but right up top on the box that we open is the factory F430 toolkit, and this is pretty sweet because the only piece that it is missing is that 30 amp maxi fuse we replaced for the F1 system. When you buy these Ferraris used, they never come with these kits anymore, and that's because these are worth at least several $100s by themselves. If it's a more rare Ferrari, they'll sell into the thousands of dollars. Because the 430 was relatively mass produced, I'd imagine this would sell secondhand for like $500 to $700 by itself. And out of all the used Ferraris I bought, only one other one came with the toolkit, and it was missing 3/4 of the stuff inside. So it was basically just a nice fancy case. We're gonna keep this in good shape. Next up is an owner's manual and the leather case that it sits in. Again, these are similar to the toolkits in the fact that people will buy them because some used cars don't come with them. Obviously, they're not as valuable, but I tell you that a complete set of owner's manuals is probably around a couple $100. And what's really cool is that Tom even has this. I've never actually seen one of these. This is the service manual for the original radio, and the radios in the Ferraris are really kind of junky from the factory, so a lot of people rip them out and put in aftermarket units. Most of the ones I have aftermarket units in them. This car came with a key to remove the radio from the dash if you ever have to replace it or service it or anything like that. So he literally has everything here. I don't think we have to tear it too far into this bag. This is obviously a car cover. And this bubble wrap looks to be an original Ferrari trickle charger. A lot of these cars came with the option of buying one of these because the batteries are known to drain in them quite frequently. And a lot of people just don't drive them, so they always put them on these battery minders. And again, you could get the factory Ferrari one. This is one of those. Now, this is something I've heard of, but never seen in person. None of my cars came with it. This is a genuine Ferrari air compressor, so if you get a flat on the side of the road, you can hook this up to your cigarette lighter and blow your tire up. And that is just one of 7 boxes. We're gonna try and power through these really quick. Oh, wow. Right off the bat, I'm seeing these door tweeters. These are the original ones that came in the car, and Tom upgraded this surround with a carbon fiber trim look. And then I'm seeing lots of hardware that looks like it goes along with the exhaust system. So in here, just a lot of hardware in these door tweeters. And this is great stuff to have, especially if you ever want to put the car back to factory. You can see on each box, Tom numbered them. So this is 7 of 8. All right, there's something thick in here. Oh, wow. I wonder what, oh, I know what this is. Okay, so in the front of our car, there's a lip that's in carbon fiber. This is obviously the factory painted piece, and it's perfect. It's got a little scuff on the underside, but you never see it installed on the car. So again, if you ever wanted to return it to factory, this is huge. And again, pieces like this would cost a lot to replace. All right, I'm not taking this out of the bubble wrap, but there's 2 of these in here, and I can tell you exactly what these are. These are factory catalytic converters. And these are here because our car has a set of upgraded catalytic converters on it. Look, we're not even halfway through this stuff, and a factory set of Ferrari catalytic converters. In a world where cats are so valuable, a set of Ferrari ones, especially off of a low mileage car, definitely worth something. And actually, the F430 cars had some problems with their cats. It's probably why Tom went ahead and switched out to an aftermarket set. But either way, he could have definitely kept those, just sold them, and I wouldn't have even thought about them. But the fact that he gave them to me so I could have them as part of the car they came off of is just awesome. And Tom, I got to give you a huge thanks for all this amazing stuff, man. But I'm going to keep going because I'm excited to see what else is in here. So in this tall box here, there's a brand name, looks like it's brand new, windshield sun visor. So that's cool. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, look at this. Service records. I don't want to open these up in case there's any addresses on them, but look, here's service records for the car. 1 of 3 service records. And then the rest that's in here, I think I can figure out, is the factory exhaust. So these are really heavy pieces, and it resembles the couple pieces that are on the Ferrari 360. Basically, these exhausts come out in a few sections, and that's what we got here is a couple of the major sections of the factory exhaust. What I am seeing here is a set of original Ferrari floor mats. Now, what came in the car was an aftermarket all-weather set. Look at these, look brand new. All right, second to last box here, and it's quite heavy. I'm going to guess that it is more exhaust components, because when you replace the entire exhaust like we have on our car, there's just a lot of different sections that come about. Okay, this is the factory muffler. This is another great factory piece to have, because on the 360 cars, one of the most popular exhaust modifications is the Stradale upgrade, and you can't get a factory Stradale exhaust anymore. But what everybody's kind of figured out is the Stradale exhaust is basically an F430 exhaust with a few little changes. You can open these up, you can modify them and make them sound exactly like a 360 Challenge Stradale. And since it's an original part that a lot of people take off their car, they don't cost as much. But now that people have figured them out, they are worth a bit of money. So anyway, I'm excited to have it, especially because I have a 360 that could use a bit of an exhaust upgrade. All right, here we go. This is the last box, and it looks to be the biggest, or one of the biggest out of all of them. Ooh, I see what this is. This is the original airbox cover. So I'm guessing that there's a couple of these in here, because our car came with a carbon fiber air intake cover. The nice thing about getting this is that ours are a bit burnt, so the easy solution would be just go ahead and stick the factory ones back on. But our burn damage isn't that severe, so if we wanted to refinish ours, all we would really have to do is just sand down all the charred up clear and then re-clear coat them. They probably look good as new. So that's everything, except one last thing I withheld till the end, and that's this. This is an auto records book. You don't really see these anymore, but for people that really want to keep track of how well their car is maintained, you'd buy one of these, and every time you did something, you write it inside. Wait till you see how meticulous Tom was with this Ferrari. I don't even know where you would buy one of these books nowadays, but Tom has notated pretty much everything that's occurred under his ownership with the Ferrari in the book. You could see he bought the car in 2015, around 7,500 miles, and it was taken away from him at just 10,710 miles. So he only was able to enjoy it a few thousand miles. Right here under the gas and oil section, he has every single fuel fill up notated, how much gas the car took, what the odometer reading was. Right here he notates that he added a half a quart of oil to it, even has the name of the station that he filled up in. And under the repairs and accessories tab, look, he has all of these different things done to it. Now it looks like this car was a nuisance. He had to do this many repairs to it, but if you look in the fine print, basically he installed a lot of aftermarket accessories, like we saw some of those carbon fiber options and things like that. Here's where he swapped out a set of front tires, and I mean, just literally every little thing that occurred with this car, including any notable trips taken in it, were marked down. It's clear that Tom's care for this car was on another level, and just like that logbook that detailed every little thing he did along with it, he wrote up a letter recounting the day it caught fire and all the events leading up to it, which he sent over to Ferrari to try and get their attention. What I want to do now is bring in Radarosa, because he has a ton of experience on this platform, and this car in particular, and see if we can't figure out, between Tom's letter to Ferrari and what we saw along the way while we were fixing it, if we can't figure out exactly why it caught on fire. Scott, we got to figure out exactly how this car caught on fire. We know it's fuel related, obviously, but the story has evolved so much since I met Tom that like, I don't even know what to think. You've put your hands on the car. You've seen what was charred. You've replaced what was charred. But I don't even know if I told you how I met Tom, because it was along the same time that you came into town
we started working on the 430, and as you showcased in your video, I made a bit of a mistake and ordered a few wrong wiring harnesses, right? And
3 out of 3, I think we determined in the end, wasn't it?
yeah. While you're still in town, while we still got a solid 3-4 days before you got to go home, we're going to shift gears. We're going to nail down the problems on my 360. To do that, I needed a couple extra gaskets and hardware. So I called a part seller here in America that could get them to me overnight. And I started talking to the guy, and he was familiar with the videos on the 360. And every time I talk to you, because you are a diligent Ferrari parts buyer, you say, Sam, make sure you order everything you need in one shop, because you know how it is. Ordering more stuff, paying for more shipping fees, that's where you're going to, save a lot of money. So I asked you, I go, Scott, for when you come back, because you're planning on coming back in a few months, what else do we need for the 430? And you go, we need the seals that go in the fuel pump. So I'm telling the parts guy, I go, I need the seal for the fuel pump. I go, but can you just confirm it's the same thing on a 360? I go, because this is actually for a different car now. Remember, I'm just ordering parts for a 360, but I go, I need it for a 430. And so he's very interested. He goes, wait, what's the story with the 430? Like, oh, you're just doing fuel pumps or whatever? And I tell him, I go, no, I actually bought a burned 430 from auction. And I swear to you, he goes, it didn't come out of this city in this state, did it? Like, he immediately hit the city and state auction that I bought it from. And I go, you got to be kidding me. I go, you know the car? He goes, I sold the fuel pump to the guy that owned the car, and it caught fire.
Wow, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Good.
So I'm like, no way, because, obviously when you're trying to get in touch with the previous owner of a car you buy at auction, the only way I've ever reliably been able to do it is to find a piece of paper inside the car, like a registration, insurance card, an old service record that has their name and information on it, right? I asked the owner of the part shop, I go, is there any way you can connect me? And that's where the ball was rolling. That's where Tom has provided me this complete account. And this was actually written up to be sent to the Ferrari dealership. So we're going to go through that right now. We're going to go through the story, which, like, it starts off pretty normal, like you'd expect, and then it gets really, really wild. So the reason why Tom sent this story to the dealership is because he tried to get a hold of Ferrari North America. And, well, Scott, how much does Ferrari North America care about this guy?
I think he said, really, because he was aware that this was becoming quite a big problem with 360s, 430. So he wanted to highlight it, really, is the point, right?
Yeah. So to get someone's attention, he sent it to the service director of his nearest Ferrari mechanic. And he begins by saying he elected to DIY this job, even though he regularly has the car serviced at the dealer, because the dealer is a pretty big, far distance from his home. And he didn't feel comfortable driving the car with the fuel leaking out of the top. So he begins by saying that he bought this replacement pump from the people I told you he did. And then he made sure it was the new part number, and he lists the part number here, the same exact part that we installed on what ended up being both sides of the car. And after the car was completely reassembled, he moved the car outside, started it. And then he says the front side engine bay covers had not been reinstalled so that the condition of the fuel tanks could be assessed on a continuing basis.
Wait a minute. Remember, we couldn't work out why that engine panel was pristine. I said, that's a miracle. How is that not charred? Yeah. I thought that had contained the fire over the wiring harness over that right side rear wheel. And that's why the engine was pretty much protected. It just had a few stains, really, from the heat. But he never even installed it. That's why.
So it must have been off the car when he was driving it. And then before it got shipped to the auction, he went and threw it back in.
Let's put it back on, right.
And so if you follow the story for a few lines more, he basically says he's monitoring it in his driveway. He's doing what anybody would do after a fuel repair. He let it idle for so many minutes. He put it in his garage, took it out of his garage. He's smelling, he's looking, nothing. And then on the following day, he drove the car 3 miles to a gas station, and he filled it all the way. He says completely full is what he says. So now we've got full fuel in the tanks. He's lifting the engine lid. He's monitoring it again. Then he turns onto a major highway, and I quote, with the intent of driving about 10 miles to warm and exercise the car. All right, here's where the car meets its demise. Shortly after turning onto this highway, northbound and accelerating, I heard a loud thump. About that same instant, the engine began running roughly. I looked in the rearview mirror and saw black smoke inside the engine bay. I immediately turned onto the berm of the highway, turned the ignition off, and raised the engine cover. There were flames on the right fuel tank.
He would see that because he doesn't have the engine covers on the inside, so you'll have a clear view of that right side tank, right?
Exactly. And here's where it starts to get crazy, and it continues getting crazier. A passerby put the fire out with some blue watery liquid, then left the scene. Scott, his guardian angel showed up. Okay.
With some yeah, I want to find out what this blue liquid is. That sounds magic. Yeah,
we've seen the car. I mean, someone obviously got to this quick. It couldn't have been more than, I mean, this thing couldn't have been burning for more than a minute or so before this guy showed up.
Yeah.
Because get this, okay, as Tom then stood next to the car, the flames reappeared. He tried to beat the flames out with his shirt with limited success.
He really loved this Ferrari, right? He really did.
Well, you know what most Ferrari guys say: if the car catches on fire, let it burn, right?
Mine has. I'll let you put a picture up here of one of my previous 355s. That burned.
After the guy puts out the fire, he says a few minutes later, the fire department showed up and put it out for good. So now that we've heard his account, we know he did the job himself, and it's what sounds like his home garage. If you had to guess, just right off the bat, what's your first instinct that went wrong here?
Two possibilities for me. Number one, it's been installed incorrectly. Something's not been done up, I would say, correctly. Or there's a possibility that the pump installed was faulty.
So
that would be my guess.
Okay, I went with the same exact thought process. With I've messed up the install on many things. I want you to take a quick look at this. These are both the pumps next to each other. These are both the pumps out of the 430. The one on the left is obviously just the one that was just leaky, right? And the one on the right is the burned one. According to Tom's account, the one on the left was never swapped, so this would have been the original one that came in the car. It's clearly like white in color. But if you look closer at the burned one, it still looks white to me. This looks like an old pump still. That's my biggest concern, is this doesn't look like the revised part.
I would agree. Yeah. I mean, when you look at them side by side, obviously you're going to get a little bit of discoloration from the fire. Yeah. But when you compare the right side, the burnt one, but then you compare it to the new obvious revised one, which is much more orangey in color, I would say.
Here's me unboxing. Yeah. Here's me unboxing a new pump. Take a look at this.
Yeah.
It doesn't look anything.
You compare it to that. If the right side pump was in a fire and it was going to discolor, it's going to go darker, not lighter, right? It's not going to go creamy, is it? So I would say, looking at that, the pump that was installed on the right side is an old style pump.
Let's say he was sold a new old stock pump, right?
Yeah.
It's still not going to, I mean, they're faulty, but it's not going to catch in whatever Tom said, 8 miles.
Yeah. I mean, these things go faulty over a number of years. I've still got original pumps in my car. I've had that car for 14 years. Touch wood, they've been good, right?
Hey, no, switch them out. What are you doing?
Yeah. I know. I should learn from our lesson here, right? But the point is these pumps, the old style pumps, don't break down immediately.
I'm doubtful that this was the new revised pump, but
no,
either way,
I would agree. It looks to me like it's an old style pump.
And of course, we want to hear what you guys have to say. So drop a comment down below if there's anything in particular. The only fault I could find with Tom's installation, okay, is reusing the plastic collar. Could that have been the failure point? Maybe when he says he heard that thump.
Maybe that was the collar cracking. Maybe
I doubt it. But here's the thing. When I hear thump and he also says the engine starts running funny, the engine obviously is going to start running funny because now he's got a massive fuel leak and the engine's not getting any fuel.
Yeah,
I think of a Ferrari misfiring. They make all sorts of strange noises.
Yeah.
The last thing I think we have to touch on is the conclusion paragraph. in his letter, which is very, very interesting. Because again, we obviously fixed this car. And let's be fair, Scott, we didn't run into any major hurdles. We replaced what was damaged and the thing basically fired up, right?
Yeah. There was nothing obvious. There was nothing like the fuel pipes down below. They were just charred. Yeah, there was no obvious holes in them or anything like that. It was just from fire damage, wasn't it?
Yeah. So here's the final paragraph, a snippet from that. When the car was flatbedded back to Tom's house in the same condition that we received it in, he drained the fuel tanks completely, which explains why when we got it, there was not a drop of fuel in either tank, right?
Yeah.
And he collected 25.3 US gallons of gasoline. He's a smart guy, this guy. I mean, he just collected about $300 with the petrol in your neck of the woods, right? But what's important about that 25.3 gallons is that if you look at the rated capacity of a Ferrari F430, it's 25.1 gallons. He's basically making the statement that whatever ignited it wasn't a lot of fuel. This fire damage was minimal in comparison to what would happen if all that fuel was left in the tank and it wasn't put out, right? The car would have exploded.
It wouldn't be a whistling diesel, I believe, can answer that question, can't he?
There you go. So, Scott, with all of the information we've gathered, it's still a bit of a mystery. That's where the comment section is going to have to come in, help us. Let us know what you think happened. But I want to end this with one quick thing that you had sent over to me. I think what had happened is we finally got the car running, and I said it in the original video. We get the car running, we see the opposite side fuel pump leaking fuel, and we're like, all we want to do is drive the thing at this
Couldn't
point.
believe that, could we? Couldn't believe it.
That was a huge shocker that I didn't think got enough discussion in the comments of my original video, but we were tired. We've been under the car on the ground working on jack stands. We're exhausted. We want to drive the car. It's getting late into the evening and I'm complaining about something. Scott, I want to thank you very much. I want everybody to check out your video because it's a great supplement to this entire story. It's linked down in the description. And here's the clip that I was referring to.
That was not a nice job.
It wasn't too bad.
Successful though, huh? Very good.
Well, it went downhill when I got involved, right? If you think about it, Scott spent all day. I said, I know you know what you're doing. He does it. He's like, man, I can't get that tank to move. I come in, I see exactly what the tank's bound up on. Take it down in about 5 seconds. Scott made me take off this extra thing, which I'm about to get under there. Redo, because of him, okay, had nothing to do with this. Very tight quarters. And then I'm going to have to redo that. Had nothing to do with it. I see, Scott, it's just bound up on this bracket right here, mate. Just one little, one nut. Okay, so we take the one nut off. Boom, thing moves over. We get the one pump out. You go and break the pump. The second pump, you break that one. I got to whip out the plastic welder thing, fix that, get it in. And then it's because of me. And
fortunately for the viewers, there's no smell, yeah? Otherwise, the whole video would stink of horse shit, yeah?
No, it would smell of gasoline because if it wasn't for your sense of smell, we wouldn't have smelt that. I currently don't have a sense of smell because I got an illness that took away my sense of smell, and I genuinely can't smell hardly anything. Scott picked up that fuel smell almost instantly. I didn't. I can't believe you just cursed on your channel. Don't you have little kids watching this?
I can beep.
Okay, good.
I can beep, yeah.
And anyway, we're a good team, but it's very clear that the student has now become the teacher because I can run circles around this Ferrari platform on you.
You have done very well, actually. Very well. And we're pretty much ready to go with this. This is awesome. We just got to button it up a little bit.
Hey, can I talk for one more second? What did I do this morning? I took a front main seal out of a 360 engine. When was the last time you did that?
Yeah. That was...
you monitored me so you could learn.
I did, yeah. I let you screw up your own engine.
I didn't screw up
for
anything.
my benefit.
The engine's already screwed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free engine.
Not the one in the 360. That's the best engine I have, is the one that's in the most plagued car.
Potentially the one you've got on a stand could be the best engine out of all of your engines.
Out of all of them.
Yeah.
And there's 4 of them. 4 in total.
4. They're multiplying.
I got a lot of engines. I'm gonna
got a lot of practice.
Yeah.
Right? Let's Let's do it. Let's put this thing.
Let me go.
Let's make it
undo
safe.
your mess. Let me go undo your mess.
You fix my mess, and then we're gonna fire this thing up.
All right.
And this time
we're gonna drive it.
we're gonna drive it, and we're not gonna have any problems.
Well, except for that problem right there. That one.
That's just small fry. That's easy. I'm not here to fix that bit.